The only thing I suck at is intros, so I just gotta figure out how to bring this in.
What's up, guys? JaxLMS here from Barack Obama's mansion.
We're really moving up. I used to be in your
Right,
basement,
right.
now I'm in Barack Obama's basement. We're really moving up in the
God.
world. Alright, so we have the top 8 Melfi list from the second ever Common Charity Tournament. I am Mambo, joined by the pilot of the deck, that's JaxLMS. How you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm happy to be here on my channel. How are you?
I'm happy to be on your channel too, just dictating the whole thing. So, just want to kind of break down the list here. So, give me your initial thoughts on just kind of the list and how it performed in the tournament, like your matchups and kind of how Swiss went and all that.
It went quite well. My matchups were I was up against 3 Tenyi and 3 Tenyi, 1 Lunalite, 1 Penguin, and then 1 No-Show. That was my best matchup, you know.
Yeah.
It was a pretty quick 2-0 in my opinion.
But, pretty tough though. I mean, that's 4 of the best stacks, especially Tenyi. Did you feel that the Tenyi matchup was good?
I think the Tenyi matchup was pretty good. I only lost to 1 of them.
Nice.
The other 2 was not like terrible, but you know it was definitely one of the harder matchups. Lunalite is Lunalite is a brutal matchup, and I cannot believe I made it out of that one alive.
Right. No, I know what you mean. That was difficult for everybody. So, the actual list. Go through kind of your thought process in each card here, because I see we got Fairy Tale Lunas in here, Rescue Cats, so smattering of kaijus.
Yeah. So the initial idea behind building this list in the first place is that most of it is just full power Melfi. Like we have everything except Melfis of the Forest, which is kind of like the not even the second best extra deck monster most of the time.
Right.
But and then also Herald of the Arclight is one of the main pieces of the TCG Melfi's end board. So that's why we're not on Hop Ears, because there's not really another good target for it. But otherwise, this is basically just how you play Melfi in TCG anyway. So I felt it was pretty strong for that reason. Not a lot of decks just get to play, normally in Common Charity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very well positioned in this format because its main point of interaction is a pop, like Puppy triggering Kalantosa. That's basically like Trap Hole, if you think about it. But yeah. And I think that's really strong in this format where, things like, I think the main thing to think about in this format is just denying your opponent the ability to stick an important thing. Like when your opponent summons Kaleido Chick, you can't let them get to a point where they can activate that Kaleido Chick, which is why being able to just immediately pop it is really strong.
Okay.
As for the Luna you brought up, that was because right now we don't have Obedience Schooled. That's another kind of important part, but it doesn't really change the way the deck functions. It's just one of the starters. So because of that, we only had Rescue Cat as a starter. So I thought we kind of wanted another good normal summon, and Luna is just very generically strong as a normal summon.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And also, since I did want to main deck Kaijus because of had the towers based format structure right now, I did think that Luna would work really well with them. And also in this format where you do want to just get your opponent's important stuff off the board. Even though Luna can be negated, it's still a good sort of response to the thing. A good sort of response to them attempting to stick something like a Monk or a Kaleido Chick.
For sure, and it gets better as the game goes on too.
Yeah,
because it seems like you want to be grinding out as much as you possibly can with this deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On turn 4, if your opponent summons another Kaleido Chick or Monk or whatever, they're not going to be able to negate it anymore because they've probably already gone through all of their copies at that point.
Okay. Talk to me about the trap card lineup, because we got 2 Compulse, 2 Lost Wind, and then a bunch of hard negates and so on.
Yeah, the Lost Winds I didn't really like that much. I put them in because I wanted trap cards that give you the most value, and Lost Wind coming back was just really strong. It being permanent negate is also really good. That's why I liked it more than Breakthrough Skill. But overall, I just didn't find that there was really much to use it on. The things you want to negate aren't really the things I would want to negate are stuff like Suprex, which you don't special summon anyway. Lost Wind just not very high value in that sense. I might try Breakthrough Skill, but right now I'm just cutting that sort of slot entirely for sort of other ideas that I have. Compulse I feel is really good though. I want to bump that up to 3. It's like Luna but guaranteed, and being able to remove stuff, that's important in the format. The Solemns, I decided on Warning and Judgment instead of Strike because I want to be able to hit the normal summon. I sound like a broken record here, but gotta keep that Kaleido chick from ever being able to activate its effects. Gotta stop the monk from hitting the board. These are just more guaranteed ways of doing that. Judgment is because I feel like the control matchups are some of the worst. So if you this deck likes setting 5, but if the opponent sets 5 back, that can kind of be an uphill battle.
For sure.
So I felt like Judgment was really good for that. Dino-Miscus is kind of the start of the deck. Whenever I was setting Trap Trick, I was almost always using it for Dino-Miscus. This is just a really, really good card that kind of permanently outs a lot of those things that you want to be removing. They don't have a Lunalight, I don't believe, has a way to get Kaleido Chick back out of the banished zone.
I was about to ask, does it hit Kaleido Chick? I was wondering if we were staying on theme, because I was worried we might be losing the plot. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And then definitely helpful, too, because you have a lot of the rank 2s in the deck as well, so I suppose, did that come up much with the Dino-Miscus Reborn effect?
It comes up a couple of times. The problem is that there's just not a lot of stuff to trigger it with. Like Torrential, you can summon Dino-Miscus with that, but speaking of Torrential, Torrential is actually kind of interesting. It's very good going second against Tenyi because a lot of the time, even if they put up their whole Sahasrara plus 2 Mare tokens plus ratio, setting Torrential kind of just tells them to fuck off.
Definitely,
Especially if you don't summon a monster even. That's what I think is great about this deck into Tenyi, is because a couple of times I actually had games where my opponent just summoned Sahasrara pass, and they expected that to win them the game, and I was just set 3 pass.
Yeah.
And then they just had nothing.
Tenyi's a weird deck like that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I suppose the last card is the Melfi Hide and Seek. How about that one?
This card is interesting. I don't think I actually resolved the Avarice effect that many times, but the effect that was actually really, really good is the Destruction Protection. That's being able to make your Torrential one-sided is really cool. Especially since you can use it for to trigger Puppy and then chain Torrential, which normally you wouldn't be able to do. But because of Hide and Seek, you just get to protect it. Also, it works really well with Joyous because you can protect Joyous from one destruction attempt, and then when they attempt to destroy, if they have double Dark Hole, this never happened, but if they did it, if they have double Dark Hole, they activate Dark Hole, you protect Joyous once, they activate another one, you tag it out, and then you get to protect the materials you summon back. So that's actually a really, really interesting interaction that I really like about it. I don't think I would bump this up to 3, but I don't want to cut it just yet. I think it was just really, really good as something that I drew into sometimes. And definitely if we had Forest, this would be the best thing to search off of it.
I suppose we didn't talk quite about the actual Melfi ratios and the 3 Rescue Cat. I mean, I don't suspect. I know there are some people, a very vocal minority, that say that there should be different ratios of Catty and so on and so forth. What is your stance? So
the main ones I see are 2 Catty, 3 Calantosa. I understand them in a way. I understand the first of all, I'll talk about Catty because I understand the idea that Catty isn't an interruption on its own. If you just draw Catty, it's not very good. The problem with that line of logic, in my opinion, is that Catty is closer to your engine than any of the other cards you could be putting in that slot. If instead of Catty you're putting in another trap card, or heaven forbid another Calantosa, but either of those don't actually get you because if you just summon Catty and then you have obviously Backrow, you're not just bricking on nothing in this deck. But if you just summon Catty and then use Catty in your opponent's turn to search the Rescue Cat, now you're actually going off on turn 3 instead of just setting 4 and hoping to draw into something to play on your turn. The third Calantosa, I get a little bit. I understand like the idea of wanting to keep using Puppy every single turn. I understand the idea of like the fear of having your joyous kaiju and thus being cut off from that interaction like later into the game. I don't think that really makes too much of a difference because assuming you didn't draw into a Calantosa, which would happen more if you're playing 3, assuming you didn't draw into a Calantosa, you would only run out by like turn 5. And if your opponent is kaijuing your Joyous on turn 5, and you don't have the interaction to keep stopping them at that point, something has gone horribly wrong. I don't know what you did in that game, but I don't know I don't know how you would just not have the generic interaction at that point to just keep playing regardless.
Yeah. I definitely see the merit, but I don't think... I agree with you where I don't necessarily think you want to plan for worst case scenario by making your deck 10% worse in terms of your ratios of drawing a Calantosa versus a Caddy.
Yeah. On that note, I think that's exactly the same line of logic that leads you to play Fenny, where like if people play Fenny if you like draw Calantosa. And so literally Fenny is a card that is good when you have drawn the worst card in your deck.
Right.
And I do not see the merit in playing that ever.
It's kind of... I also see that as the same idea of Caddy doesn't immediately give you an interaction. Well, Fenny doesn't either unless you, like you said, specifically draw the worst card to draw in your deck. All right.
Yeah.
Puppy, we don't really got to mention that. How are the last 2 cards, because I don't think Rescue Cat really needs to be talked about either. The Nimble Beaver.
Nimble Beaver is a neat card. I was playing it at 3 at first. I might go back to that because I thought it was cool, but I don't think it was just the 3rd Beaver is just the most cuttable card.
For sure.
This card, if we had Forest, this would be an insane card because it would search as Puppy. But right now, the main thing, if you draw Beaver turn 1, what you can do is summon Mannequin Cat, and Mannequin Cat is really good into the meta right now. At least in terms of like Goki and Tenyi, not so much against Lunalight, but against those two, those both summon Earth monsters. So you can use Mannequin Cat to summon Puppy right out of deck, which is really cool. But other than that, you're mostly using Nimble Beaver as the search for Caddy for turn 3, so you can flex into like rank 2 stuff. So you can start making like a Joyous without having to use like your Puppy and Caddy as much.
So definitely a little bit better in kind of later stages of the game where you know you kind of maybe you have gotten Kaiju. This is a way for you to get back in. So maybe that 3rd copy would kind of help with that.
Yeah, but the reason you don't really need the 3rd copy is because you have Pony to just loop it anyway. So it's not too necessary. You could maybe throw it in. You could go without it. Yeah, you know, either way.
Last thing I'll ask about for the main deck, just for the kids at home, so they know how to do this deck. What do you summon out Rescue Cat? Just so everybody knows.
Yeah, so with Rescue Cat, you summon Puppy and Caddy, and then immediately make Joyous, and then on your opponent's draw phase, just immediately tag out into Puppy and Caddy again. In like TCG, I would say maybe wait until your opponent like commits to something. Mostly because even though Gamma isn't really in the meta right now, I do like to just play around Gamma as much as I can.
Yeah.
That's kind of a weird quirk I have when playing like TCG Melfi is I just play around like random things. Like I'll normal summon Puppy instead of summoning an end phase to play around Gamma, or I'll like or if like sometimes like when Nibiru is in the meta, that sometimes comes up. Like I'll summon the Puppy in the end phase as the 5th summon.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense, honestly. Any changes you would make to the main? Outside of the
to the main
and so on?
The one thing I really want to test out is Scapegoat. It has the main reason is because the best out to the Leo Dancer is Borreload, but this deck doesn't have a lot of great ways to get to Borreload. But if you just flip up Scapegoat in your opponent's end phase, that's a free Borreload.
Right.
It also has synergy with Daruma, which also is a pretty standout card in this list. Being able to make Daruma on the way to climbing into Borreload and just popping your opponent's back row if they have any is really strong.
Yeah, definitely.
You can also make Raten with it. There's just a lot of cool things you can do with it.
Yeah, I've been messing around with Scapegoat. It's definitely got a lot of potential for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all good there. How about the side deck? How did that perform? Thoughts on why you played what you did, so on?
Yeah, so the Lava Golem and Droll and Lockbird were for Goki. Only one person was on Goki. It's kind of in its flop era right now.
Yeah,
that was interesting to see. For now, yeah. Apparently, it's people have been brewing it because of how people aren't expecting it. I definitely would not get complacent in having there be a no Goki meta. I think it's definitely going to come back with a vengeance.
I agree with that.
Other than that, I think Lava Golem is still pretty good against most matchups because Lunalight wants to make Leo Dancer plus Redoer if they can. Tenyi wants to have at least Sahasrara and one token.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always going to be something to hit with Lava Golem for the most part. And if there isn't, then usually that's a much weaker board that's easier to crack anyway.
Okay. How about
and also this deck...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, but yeah, other than that, like the reason Lava Golem works in this deck is because you really don't need your normal summon if you draw stuff like Puppy and Caddy. You get your pendulum summon in the end phase, as they say. But Lancia, yeah, this card was pretty strong. I want to change it out to Chaos Hunter though. I do think that's probably going to be better as a way because the game is going to keep going on for so long. Like you can't Lancia a Tenyi player and then immediately close out the game next turn in this deck. So I want something a little bit more permanent to deal with those banish effects. Same with Lunalight, where they have if you Lancia them, unless you just kill them that turn, they're probably just gonna activate another wolf or activate the same wolf if you failed to pop it somehow, and then just make the Leo Dancer anyway. So yeah, Chaos Hunter as like a permanent stop to banishing, I think is really good.
That makes sense.
But
big body too.
Other than that, I do think that this slot, like the anti-banish slot, is really good. I recommend it for sure.
I never thought about that when I played, so that's something for me to think about.
Yeah.
Back row removal, you got a lot here. 2 Cosmic, 3 Twin.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I do think that like the control matchups are going to be some of the toughest, so I did try to put in as much as I could for those. I usually take out the Kaijus in those matchups, so having at least 3, and then probably the other 2's Lost Wind.
That makes sense. Pank just a staple then?
Yeah, and I didn't like him that much. I've been thinking about it, and there's just not a lot of things I want to side Pank against. Pank does nothing against Lunalight. It does nothing against Goki. It does very little, if anything, against Tenyi. So I don't think I want to continue playing Pank. It was weird. You look at the format like this, and you see Pank as like a clear standout, but it just, I don't think it's the format for Pankratops. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, Towers format, Dragoon text format, yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. All right, extra decks. So Joyous Melfis. Probably don't need to talk too much about that, but
I don't think the third has really ever come up for me, but there's so little else to play that I don't think you can really justify not playing the third for fringe cases.
It does seem like you're really digging for stuff. We got 2 Mannequin Cat, Dark Mist, Utopic Future, Phantom Knights, Cursed Javelin. Any of those, other than the Mannequin Cat, because we talked about that a bit, but out of the other 3, did any of those ever come up?
Cursed Javelin is a pretty strong card. Lets you out stuff that can be targeted. Not super hard easy to come by, but
Yeah.
It comes up a lot. I think it's a really good card. It also lets you clear over stuff like the negation doesn't always matter. Zeroing things out definitely does matter a lot in this deck with not a lot of high damage output. The Dark Mist and the Utopic Future have never come up for me. I don't think I'm going to continue with them. Dark Mist as an idea, I think, is neat because it outs Leo Dancer. But there's not a lot of ways to make it. That's
3 level 2s. I feel like this is cope.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Future, where it also outs the Leo Dancer, but it's just too hard. They're both too expensive, just too hard to make, and not very good against much else.
Now the Link package, you got Borolo, Daruma, the Geonator, Raten, Rugal, I can't remember these names, Triple Burst, and Underclock Taker. How'd that perform?
Yeah, so Borreload I haven't really been able to make too much once I put in the Scapegoat. I think I'm going to be I think I'm going to be making it a lot more, and that's going to be really good for at least the damage output of this deck. The clock on there. Triple Burst is an out to Volcanic Counter. This has come up for me one time, and it was the most hype game of my entire life.
Was this just testing?
Yes.
Amazing.
This was not a tournament. I was at I think it was 150 life points. And this dude says, GG, because he has volcanic counter and graveyard. I scan my extra deck, I see triple burst, and I go, there's no fucking way. I make the triple burst.
Easy.
And I swing 24.
Outstanding.
I'm done. Yeah.
Was anything else relevant otherwise? The Durumidal seems like it might have came up.
Oh yeah, Durumidal I want to try and put in a second copy. I think it might come up in a couple of cases. Because Durumidal comes up in control matchups, and those are going to be longer, drawn-out games. So I think Durumidal, having the second one's going to be really cool. Being able to make that with Scapegoat is really awesome, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
There's no better feeling than Durumidal target Trap Trick, Chain Trap Trick.
Yeah, I was about to mention that as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else here was relevant?
No, Raten's come up a couple of times for me. Rugal is a guy to make, I guess, but he's not really that strong. He's kind of like I've talked about this. He's kind of like a worse pony because he essentially just adds the card back. Summoning it doesn't matter because it just goes back and it's negated along the way anyway. So it's just basically pony during the end phase, which is not that important. Underclock I'm going to keep in only because of the way it works with only because I might need it for Scapegoat lines.
Right.
Other than that,
yeah.
The extra deck's pretty in flux. I could see a lot of different things making their way in and out.
Yeah. So moving forward, we already talked a little bit about it, but other than the Scapegoat, any major changes you'd make?
Major changes? I don't think so. The one thing is I might change up the Kaiju package. I might end up with 3 Jizukiru because you can summon the Jizukiru to your opponent's field and then target it with Mannequin Cat to summon Luna right from deck, which is pretty sick combo.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Mannequin Cat I think has been a really, really cool part of the common charity meta as a whole. It was used in that other really cool Paleo list.
Yep.
That I think that had a lot of sick Mannequin Cat targets.
Yeah.
Mannequin Cat I think just as a concept is one of the things that just it's one of the things you only see in common charity. Like a lot of these lists are like, this is just Luna Light, this is just Goki. Mannequin Cat is a common charity card, first and foremost. That I think is really cool.
It feels like this has definitely become the first like standout card that specifically has been facilitated by common charity.
For sure.
Maybe Proofiness as well from Diamond Dude. Yeah.
That was a neat one.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts?
Other than that, I might shift up the trap lineup, but that's it. Final thoughts?
Yeah, as a whole tournament deck, anything?
I just had a lot of fun. I'm really glad that Melfi finally has a format where it can be played so well as a pure deck.
Yeah.
I think it was really
too with Forest. Yeah,
I'm really excited to see how it shapes up in the future.
For sure. All right, cool. Well, this was fun.
Thank you for having me.
You have any guys about to say?
Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to me, Mambo Yugioh,
or to me, Jaxel MS.
God bless you. Good night. And the Biden crime family orchestrated the coronavirus to ruin Pasadena.
Good night.